श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शंकरं लोकशंकरं शंकरं शंकराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवत् व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। श्रीमन्त रमेश। Okay, from 12 onwards. Yeah. Mahesh, you had something to say? onwards. तत्रैकाग्रं मनः कृत्वा यतचित्तेन्द्रियक्रियः उपविश्यासने युञ्ज्यात् योगमात्मविशुद्धये समं कायशिरो ग्रीवं धारयन्नचलं स्थिरः सम्प्रेक्ष्य नासिकाग्रं स्वं दिशश्चानवलोकयन् प्रशान्तात्मा विगतभीः ब्रह्मचारिव्रते स्थितः मनः संयम्य मच्चित्तः Manasamyamya Machittaha
Manasamyamya Machittaha
Yukta Asita Matparaha
Yukta Asita Matparaha
Yunjannevam Sadatmanam
Yunjannevam Sadatmanam
Yogi Niyatamaanasaha
Yogi Niyatamaanasaha
Shantim Nirvana Paramam
Shantim Nirvana Paramam
Matsamsthamadhigacchati
Matsamsthamadhigacchati
Natyashnatastu yogosti
Natyascha nastu yogosti
Natyashnatastu yogosti
Natyascha nastu yogosti
Nachaikantamanashnataha
Nachaikantam
Nachaitamanashchataha
Nachati swapnashilasya
Nachati swapnashilasya
Jagrato naiva charjuna
Jagrito naiva charjuna
Yuktahara viharasya
Yuktahara viharasya
Yuktacheshtasya karmasu
Yuktacheshtasya karmasu
Yuktasvapnavabodhasya
Yuktasvapnavabodhasya
Yogo bhavati dukkhaha
Yogo bhavati dukkhaha
Yada viniyatam chittam
Yada viniyatam chittam
Atmanyevavatisthate
Atmanyevavatishtate
Nisprihas sarvakamebhyaha
Nispraha sarvakamebhyah
Yukta ityuchyate tada.
Yukta ityushchate tata tada.
So as I said last time, from 18 onwards, Bhagavan Sri Krishna is talking about what is called Dhyana Swarupa. He is now describing what Dhyanam is. So far it was preparation to Dhyanam. Now talking more about Dhyanam itself. And what is the expectation there, and and what is the nature of that Dhyanam. Okay. So we saw that Yada Viniyatam Chittam Atmani Eva Avatishthate Nispraha Sarvakamebhyah Yukta Ityuchyate Tada. So when that person Viniyatam Chittam, person's mind is mastered. Mastered means when things in the world, person responds to things in the world, whatever happens to him, himself, herself, and but is not carried away by anything, however painful it is. So that's the idea here. Doesn't mean the person does not experience pain and doesn't have any emotions. All emotions are there, but the person comes back. It's not going to get carried away. So yada viniyatam chittam atmani eva avatishthati. The person now recognizes what Atma is, and that I am that Atma, which is Purnaha. Then Nispraha Sarva Kamebhyaha. And that person is also free from spriha, any longing desires, pining desires. This desire must be met. Like that, there is no such thing for this person. Desires will be there, but there are no binding desires. We saw that yuktaha iti uchyate tada. So tada, then that person is called a yuktaha. That is the literal meaning there. So when the person qualifies, has those qualifications, then the person is called a yuktaha. So the word yuktaha in this context, then the person has done what is to be done. This is the greatest accomplishment. That is the meaning. That person is considered an accomplished person. Okay. So accomplished person. So all of us, everybody wants to accomplish something or other, and then we have different ideas of what accomplishment is. And so in that, in the laukika vyavahara, in our life, accomplishment can mean so many different things. It can mean something with respect to family. It can mean something with respect to children. I may be accomplished professionally. I may be accomplished. Uh, I'm retired. I may be accomplished, but my children are still wandering around. They're still 20, 30, and they're not settled at all at home. They don't know what's going on. So then what happens? And I'm accomplished professionally, but I'm unsettled. Correct? So unsettled. Children are not settled. I'm not settled. Okay. Then children are settled. Then grandchildren must be settled. Only then I'll be settled. So like this it goes on. And so that is the accomplishment in the transactional world. But here, recognizing that all accomplishments out there are going to be like that. It's always going to be up and down. There's never anybody who calls himself herself accomplished. You ask Bill Gates, you ask any of these people, do you now think you have accomplished everything that you want to accomplish? Be curious what they will say and what kind of response they'll have. So yeah, I think now I've done. I don't, but I think the Bill Gates Foundation, we have a lot of ideas and we've got things to do. Very challenging work we are doing. So like that, he might say something. But it'd be curious to know. I'm full and complete. Everything I do is a Leela Vishwa. Whatever happens, happens. I'm there, I can contribute, and therefore I want to contribute. Be curious if somebody says that. And it doesn't matter. Whatever happens to me anymore, it won't affect me. Like that, they say, then that's a different thing altogether. So here, yuktaha iti uchyate, accomplished. Okay, that person is supposed to be accomplished, means the person no longer is confused about the Atma and the body. No longer confused. As long as that confusion is there, there is always going to be insecurity. We've seen that. And so no longer that confusion. And thereafter, what happens? Will the person have no desires? No, desires will be there. Why? Because Shakti, Ichha Shakti is there. And Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, all these things will always manifest. And so Ichha Shakti, that Ichha Shakti, those desires are now coming from a full person. From completeness, all the desires come. No longer a desire to be met in order to become complete, in order to become better, in order to become more secure. Correct? That is the difference between the desires of a yuktaha versus a desire of any other person. Okay. Therefore, then the desires can really be blessings, can really be privileges. And that is why karma yoga is very important. We begin to have that attitude of in our life. Whatever we accomplish, whatever we do, whatever we get, we are thankful. We acknowledge it as a prasada of Ishvara. So then the karma yoga itself is so powerful that the knowledge is just the next step, immediate next step. So therefore that cycle is understood. Ajnanam. Ajnanam is there. Once I'm ignorant, then I will have kama, desire. Desire for what? For artha. Okay, to be more secure, to be secure. And then therefore I have to do karma. Karma is given, and karma means karma phala will be there. Drishta karma phalam is there. Adrishta karma phalam is also there. If there was only drishta karma phalam, then another janma cannot be there. Adrishta janma karma phalam is there. Only then another janma can be talked about. And and so then again, then maranam is there. Then punarapi jananam is there, because adrishta phalam was accumulated and kartrutvam was there, and then another janma is there, and the cycle continues. So that cycle has to come to an end. The minute one of the links in the chain is broken, then one link you break, that is enough, and then the whole chain is broken. And so that person is called a yuktaha. That person has the vyavasayatmika buddhihi. Correct? Vyavasayatmika buddhihi. Chapter 2, 41. Vyavasayatmika buddhihi. Eke kuru nandana bhushaka hyanantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. So that nischayatmika buddhi has to be there initially, and then followed through by knowledge. And so if I don't have that knowledge, then what happens? Bahushaka anantaha ichaha. So my desires are just multiplying, and I don't know what exactly I should do in order for me to be settled in my life, and I'm always unsettled. And so constantly groping. So that's why looking for the latest thing is looking for the latest. I think it's a one thing, they say, a popular question, right? What happens if all people become jnanis, then the world will not progress, Everybody's contented with themselves and the world will not progress, This is a very serious problem, right? World serious problem. more serious than pandemic. What happens if the world doesn't progress? Hey, are you happy or not? This is the question. Okay. And whether you have an iPhone or not have an iPhone, how does it matter? And so progress, like immediately connect to progress. Why? Because this connection is made. I can be happy only when this external world is to my liking. Correct? Then only I can be happy. It's all right to get comforts. It's all right to get the latest cure. All that is good. It's important. But connecting my ananda to that, the problem, as the pandemic has showed us that. Okay. So yuktaha iti uchyate. And so that person is no longer confused about oneself. So let's look at the shloka. I don't think we translated this, did we? No, we did not. Okay. When the mind has gained a composure and remains in the self alone. When the mind has gained composure and remains in the self alone, comma, when one is free from longing, for all the objects, within brackets of desire, because we only desire a few objects in this world. The world is too big, and we don't desire everything. We have only a few things that we want the most. Okay, so that is from all the objects of desire, comma. Then that person is said to be then that person is said to be one who is accomplished. When the mind has gained composure and remains in the self alone means in the self only. Okay, that is the meaning. Not in the self alone, not lonely. Karma. When one is free from longing from all the objects of desire, karma, then that person is said to be one who is accomplished. So that dhyata, it starts with meditation, and then dhyanam is meant to gain further. Chitta Shuddhi is already there. That is why dhyanam is possible. And then contemplation happens. Shravanam is been going on. Mananam is going on. And so this dhyanam helps in assimilating what we have already learned from Shravanam. And so then contemplation happens, and then Atmani eva avatisthate, then the contemplator, difference between contemplator and the contemplated upon object disappears not only in the mind but in the cognitively, knowledge wise. I know that there is no difference, so that's important here. Okay, so let's look at the next one, Mahesh. यथा दीपो निवातस्थः
यथा दीपो निवातस्तः
नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता
नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता
योगिनो यतचित्तस्य
योगिनो यतचित्तस्य
युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः
युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः
यथा दीपो निवातस्थः
यथा दीपो निवातस्थः
नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता
नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता
योगिनो यतचित्तस्य
योगिनो यतचित्तस्य
युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः
युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः.
Yeah. So here there is a illustration given. There is a simile given. Upama, sopama. That is the key word there. Sopama. Sa upama. Upama is given. Upama in Sanskrit means a simile, an illustration, a metaphor. Okay? That is, an example is given to say something. That is what upama smrita. A simile is remembered, a simile is quoted, an illustration is quoted. That is what Krishna is saying here. And illustration. So he's going to give an illustration to describe this accomplished person, Yuktaha, we saw in the previous shloka, that the mind of that wise person, how will it be? So he wants to say that, he wants to describe that by giving this example. Okay, so upama, generally those who know Sanskrit, upama, when we say, generally we think of Kalidasa. Upama Kalidasasya, like that they say, because this Kalidasa's place, so Abhijnana Shakuntalam, etc., if you Kumara Sambhavam, etc., you look, it is all, I've not read these books, bits and pieces I've seen, and he is known for this similes. Suddenly simile will come, metaphor will come, and whether it is what will be the rasa, Navarasas are there. So whether it is, compassion, karuna rasa, or it is, romantic, etc., love, different kinds of love. He has different types of similes for that. Okay. So that is called upama here. And so upama means what? Illustration. An illustration is needed when something has to be described and the person to whom this is said does not know well what is being talked about. Correct? That is when you need an example. That's when you need an example. So somebody says, reads the newspaper and say reindeer. Reindeer. Reindeer means what? So we don't see reindeer walking around. In India, you see a lot of animals on the street. And in Coimbatore, there is no shortage. We see horses, we see donkeys, we see dogs, we see cats, peacock also we see. Of course, we know that. And if you start counting, it's actually quite a bit. And birds, crows come. Thankfully, crows are there. Sparrows, yeah, in my house a couple of days ago, I saw a sparrow. It was sitting on the door. So I know sparrows are also there. So a lot of animals we see. But reindeer, if somebody says, deer, many people know. So suppose somebody asks, what is a reindeer? A reindeer is, do you know what a deer is? Yes, I know what a deer is. Okay. So reindeer is like a deer, but then it is much bigger than a deer. And its horns are even more branched and longer. And it doesn't live here in Madras. You have to go all the way to Himalayas to see the reindeer. So that kind of animal is called reindeer. That's a way of explaining. So once you know a deer, you come almost close, and you just have to see the reindeer in order to really understand what a reindeer is. Okay, this is how we give examples. So another example I can give. I thought of one as I was thinking about it. I thought of another example. Do you know what a sapota is? Sapota. Okay, sapota. So then most people might say yes, and some people might say, what is sapota? Because these days we can't take anything for granted, and anybody at any time can say no. What is it? Like postage stamp. If we say, our kids won't understand what it is. Postage stamp. Those days we used to have we used to buy stamps, 5 rupees stamp, 10 rupees stamp, 2 rupees stamp, and all that. We used to keep, and then we used to stick it on the letter. These days, what stamp? And these days, the question is, are you sending money from WhatsApp or not? That is the latest question. And what stamp you're talking about? And so, and you go to the registrar office, they say you should put a revenue stamp. And so, like this, if I say supporter, then no, I don't know what a supporter is. Don't know what a supporter is. Okay, then what? Have you seen a potato? Potato I've seen. Potato I've seen. That's good. This is at least the boy has seen potato. Okay, we have to start somewhere, So, and this is not Arundhati Nyaya. Arundhati Nyaya is a little different, but it may be connected, but a little different. Sharada was saying Arundhati Nyaya. So, potato. Okay, you got, potato. Good. So, the sapota is like a potato in looks, but then it is not, it's spherical like an orange, not any shape like a potato. Potato can be of any shape, can be circular, it can be oblong, it can be any other shape also. But yeah, color wise, it's like a potato. And guess what? Potato is a vegetable. Sapota is not a vegetable, it's a fruit. It's sweet to taste. Like this, you can give a lot of description. And so the person kind of has an idea of what a sapota is. And later on, when you go to the store and you find the potato, you say, look, son, remember that day I was talking about sapota? This is the sapota. Oh, yes, now. Okay. And then, of course, once you eat it, then you completely know what a sapota is. So this is this is the purpose of an example, no doubt. So here an upama is given. Okay. So here, because the person who is to whom this is being talked about doesn't quite fully know. Clarity is improving, no doubt. Karma Yoga Buddhi is there, no doubt. But still, tell me a little more about the Jnani. Arjuna asked the question, remember? When did he ask the question? Which chapter? Third chapter? Third chapter. What about earlier than that? Fourth chapter. Okay. Second chapter also he asked. You know what he asked? Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sthitadi kim prabhasheta. Then kimasita vrajeta kim. Correct? So that's what I was thinking. So not bad. Meera is beginning to recall something. So like that. So how does the wise person talk? How does the wise person sit? And Kim Prabhasheta, is there a difference in the way he or she talks? Like that he asked. So here also, Krishna is trying to talk about the mind of that person. And so when how do you describe something like that? How do you describe sweetness? How do you describe salty? Something is salty. Describe, how do you define it? Right? You can't define these things. And so it's you're kind of tending to that kind of a situation. And so that is just like when a child does not understand something, and you have to. Parents always give for good examples to give children. Opportunities arise when you have children at home to say something. Children want.
Again, there is a slight.
So illustration. I think you all know now. Upama. And Upama. I never knew what khichdi was. So then until somebody made khichdi and said, oh, it looks like upma. Yeah, okay. It looks like upma. So that is also illustration. We need illustrations.
Again, it's going.
Am I audible? Yeah?
No, you're freezing and voice also breaking.
Okay. So talking about upama and so I was saying I was reminded of upma, and I never heard of khichdi. And so what is this khichdi I used to find, and until this khichdi came up, this is khichdi, they kept saying, and then I said, oh, it looks like upma. And so a little different version of upma was there. So sometimes we need this upamas are important in our conversation, and especially in teaching. And good teachers make use of, spend a lot of time to give a good example. Correct? And even I struggle a lot with that. And how can I explain this? If the teacher asks that question, what is a good way to explain this? Then an example has to come. Somewhere there's an example waiting. An upama is waiting for the teacher, correct? And so here also, here he says, Yatha deepaha nivatasthaha nengate. Okay, deepaha na ingate. Deepaha, lamp, na ingate, is not trembling. Just as the lamp is not trembling. Okay, the flame of lamp means flame of the lamp is not trembling. Okay. How can the flame of the lamp not tremble? It is constantly trembling. Therefore, he says, Nivatastaha Dipa, a lamp which is protected from the movement of the air around it. Okay, a lamp that is protected. Then that flame is always going to be stable. You can't see the flame flickering, no flicker at all. Correct? That is the upama here. Saha upama, sa upama sprita. Sa means that illustration is being recalled here. That's what Krishna is saying. And then yoginaha yatachittasya yunjataha yogam atmanaha. That's what he's saying. So he's saying that atmanaha yogam yunjataha. So The person who is who practices, the meditator, the dhyayi, who is practicing meditation and yogam yunjataha. Okay, so yogam here, dhyana yogam yunjataha, who is practicing the contemplation of the self after having done all the Shravanam and Maranam, who is practicing contemplation of the self, Dhyanam, who is doing Dhyanam, no, in this case, then that person who is a Yata Chittaha, okay, who has a mind that is now no longer fettered by Ragadveshas, that person with a composed mind, okay, and of that yoginaha, okay, of that yogi, of that dhyayi, of that meditator, then that person's mind will be yatha deepaha nimatastaha na ingate. That person's mind will be like, will not tremble at all. There will be no movement at all in the mind of that person. Okay, that is the illustration here. And so illustration is there because, as we said, illustration is needed when for a person who is still learning, for a person who is still in the process, not yet gain the clarity completely. But once you come, once the sapota, I actually have a sapota at home, so I picked it up. So this is called a sapota. Those of you who have not seen a sapota, okay, this is an opportunity. Okay, take a look. It's exactly like a potato. And the child won't know. The child would have seen potatoes, but sapota, it won't until you give the sapota to the child and say, smell it. And then say, oh, mom, this smells very different. And yeah, so this is called sapota. So once you see it, then and then afterwards, then the purpose, the illustration has served its purpose. And so like this, we used to have all these situations, I used to wonder what an anaconda is. I don't know how many of you wondered what an anaconda is? They use this word all the time. Until you see all this National Geographic and all these things. And then finally you figure out, okay, this is an anaconda. Okay, I thought this was a python, but he says it's an anaconda. And so there must be a difference. Otherwise, there should be two words need not be there for the same animal, There has to be. Then you kind of learn slowly that, this python is typically these animals are in Asia and Africa, and the anaconda is South American, and the anaconda lives near the water. It's lives in the marshes and wetlands, whereas the python can be in water and can be outside also, in dry areas also. And then the python lays eggs, so 30-35 eggs it can lay. And this anaconda gives birth to live newborns. Look at the differences. It's amazing, right? And we don't know all these things unless we are told this. So many differences are there. But initially, what's an anaconda? Anaconda is like a python. It's a python. It's like that. And there are two different families. According to these people, they're classified into two different families and all that. But and then the python has a way of killing its prey. It squeezes the prey. It constricts the prey until the prey cannot breathe anymore. So constrictor, boa constrictor and all that we hear about. Whereas the anaconda will grab the animal and just pull it under the water and then suffocate the animal until the animal dies. That's its way of killing the prey. So there are some differences like that. And anaconda is twice as heavy as a python, maybe. They say 500, 600 pounds versus the python, which can be 250, 300 pounds, like that. So there are differences. So yogam yunjataha. So here yogam yunjataha, Puja Swamiji reminds us, it can even be, so ashtanga yogam yunjataha. So yamaniyamadi ashtanga yoga is the person who practices ashtanga yoga. So which implies ashtanga yoga includes karma yoga, yama niyama. So all that is part of karma yoga. And or it can purely mean a person who is contemplating on Atma. Both ways you can take, and which is going to be described further. That yogam yunjataha. Next few shlokas we'll see that also. So let's translate this here. A lamp protected from wind, comma, a lamp protected from wind does not tremble. Full stop. This illustration is cited for the composed mind. This illustration is cited for the composed mind of the meditator. Who practices contemplation of the self. Meditator who practices the contemplation of the self. A lamp, comma, protected from the wind, comma, does not tremble. Full stop. This illustration is cited for the composed mind of the meditator who practices contemplation of the self. So in Sanskrit, we can do the Anvaya a little differently also. So yatha nivatasthaha deepaha na ingate. Nengate is na ingate. Yatha nivatasthaha deepaha na ingate. Sa upama smrita. Or you can put the sa upama smrita later. So yatha deep nivatasthaha deepaha na ingate. Tatha, you can add tatha. And then come to the second line. You can come to the second line and say, Atmanaha yogam yunjataha yata chittasya yoginaha. Okay, from the last word to the first word you have to come in the Anvaya. Atmanaha yogam yunjataha yata chittasya yoginaha. You have to add two couple of words. Manaha na ingate. Manaha na ingate. Means that person's mind does not quiver, does not tremble, does not flicker. Okay. I hope you all got it, right? Second line should be Tatha Atmanaha yogam yunjataha yata chittasya yoginaha manaha na ingate. Nengate. That is very true. Do the Anvaya of the shloka. Yeah, previous shloka also I did not do Anvaya, but yada tada, so you can so previous shloka yada chittam viniyatam bhavati, and then chittam atmani eva avatisthate. And then next line, sarva kamebhyaha nisprihaha bhavati tada yuktaha iti uchyate. Like that you can translate. I mean, do Anvaya. Okay. So let's chant this next couple of shlokas. Yeah. Ramesh Krishnamurti. Yatro paramate chittam
Yatro paramate chittam
niruddham yoga sevaya.
Niruddham yoga sevaya.
Yatra chaivatmanatmanam
Yatra chaivatmanatmanam.
pashyannatmani tushyati.
Pashyannatmani tushyati.
And next one also. Sukham atyantikam yattad
Sukham atyantikam yattad.
buddhigrahyamatīndriyam
Buddhigrahyamatīndriyam.
veti yatra na chaivayam
Vetti yatra na chaivayam.
sthitaschalati tattvataha.
Sthitaschalati tattvataha.
Okay, so we just have a few minutes left, so let me explain here. So shloka number 20, that's where we are. And here what is said is the mind, again talking about the mind of the yogi, of the dhyayi, of the meditator. It abides in oneself. Atmani tushyati. Okay, so that is the main sentence here. Yogasya manaha yogi atmani tushyati. That is the main word. Last two words are there here. Atmani tushyati. Tushyati, and revels in, is happy in Atma. Okay, that is what is being said here. So, so let's look at this. First line, look at the last few words. Chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Okay. Chittam niruddham. Chittam means mind. Niruddham. Niruddham is mastered. Okay. When the mind is mastered. So we don't say control, as you can imagine now. We don't use the word control because control means the minute you stop controlling the mind, then it will go off in its own track. So that is the idea. So there is no need for any control, really. Mastery means, in fact, there is no need for control. That is the meaning of mastery. That's why we don't use the word control. I hope you're following that. Okay. So niruddham, yada chittam niruddham. When the mind is mastered, by what? Yoga sevaya. Yoga sevaya. Seva, akaranta tritiya. I mean, akaranta strilingam, sorry. And then tritiya vibhakti. So yoga sevaya. By the activity of dhyanam. Okay. So yoga sevaya. By dhyanam, when the mind is mastered. Okay. Chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Then look at the first few words of the shloka. Uparamate. Yatra uparamate. Yatro paramate must be split as yatra and uparamate. Okay. Uparamate. So chittam, bring chittam also there. Yatra chittam uparamate. When the mind uparamate, chittam uparamate. When the mind revels in, when the mind stays in, when the mind abides in. Okay. Abides in. That is it. In what? Uparamate. This word, this Sanskrit, there is a beautiful prefix called upa. Upa is a prefix and or prefix, whatever you want to say. So this upa, it means samipe. It means near. Means near. Literal meaning of upa means near. So, like for example, where are my glasses? So here are the glasses. Okay. You know the word for glasses in Sanskrit? Upanetram. Upanetram. Means netram is eyes. Upanetram. What is near your eyes? It's called Upanetram. So very interesting, right? Upanetram. And like this, we have upagachati. Upagachati approaches a person. Upagachati. Samipe gachati. Samipam gachati. Upanishad. Upanishad. Look at that. Upanishad. This is a big lecture actually to explain Upanishad. It's a beautiful word. So upa samipe, okay. Ni. Ni means nischayatmika, well ascertained. Ni. Ni means definite, well ascertained. And then sad. Sad. Sad has 2-3 meanings. And it all means finally removal of ignorance. Okay, definite removal of ignorance of what is near. That is the literal meaning of the word Upanishad. Correct? Upa means near, ni means nischayam, definite, and then sad. Sad means loosening and removal and destruction of. And you have to wonder, destruction of what? Ignorance. Then ignorance of what? Of upa. Ignorance of upa means what is most near to you. What is most near to you? Okay. What is most near to you is you. Atma is the nearest. You can't go any more, any nearer than that, you can't go. And so this Upanishad word, look at how amazing it is. Don't you love all this? And we can just sit and ruminate about this. You can do a meditation on the word Upanishad. Half an hour. I'm telling you, it's just wonderful. And so that is a literal meaning. Therefore, that which definitely, surely removes the ignorance of Atma is called Upanishad. Okay, now let's come back to the shloka. Uparamate. Uparamate. Ramate revels in, abides in. Chittam ramate. Chittam is mind. Manaha antakaranam. Antakaranam ramate. Uparamate. Where does it abide in? It abides in what is nearest to you, and that is Atma. So within brackets, you have to say in Atma. And the mind abides in Atma. Okay, that is the way to understand these words. So we'll come back here. It's 475, but we'll continue this discussion in the next class. So here Krishna is describing now meditation means what, dhyanam means what. That is why we can't use meditation, the English word, as a literal translation of dhyanam, as a literal translation of nididhyasanam. It's because we are talking about so many things here, and karma yoga is involved, jnana yoga is involved, and raga dveshas are involved, and all these things are involved, which the word meditation doesn't convey. And so we'll come back to the shloka in the next class. Om swasti prajabhyah paripalayantam nyayena margena mahim mahishaah go brahmanebhyah shubhamastu nityam loka samasta sukhino bhavantu kale varshatu parjanyah prithvi sasyashalini deshoyam kshobarahitah brahmana santu nirbhayah. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet, asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritangamaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.